Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep. What company do you keep?
Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the south side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Today is December 29th, 2018. And
It's the 30th.
The 30th? Oh, wow.
We'll
okay, I'm still a day behind.
That's all right. We'll work with you.
But that's what it's about, right? The youngest sister got to help the oldest sister. And we have 2 days left. Yes, before the beginning of the new year. Can you believe how quickly time has gone by? We pray that everyone enjoyed their Christmas with family and friends, and everybody is home well and safe, and that you remembered the reason for the season. And that's just the bottom line. And so I am Dr. Sharon Cradle, and I am the oldest of this dynamic duo.
And I am Sherelle Higgins, and I am your favorite co-host of this dynamic duo.
I love to say that part. Yes, and yes. And so, as you can see here, we have our dynamic guest that you really want to go on Listen Vision Live so you can hear us in our entirety and see the show in its fullness, because Miss Karen Maria Austin is here to talk to us and educate us on a very important topic. And it is on Facebook and social media regulations, and what are some leading indicators of the economy. And so we would love for you all to call in and join the conversation at 833-202-8255. And before we bring Karen on to introduce herself, I always read scripture, and I was telling Karen before she came in that she's from one of my favorite places on earth outside of Chicago, and that's Philly. Yeah. And so we'll let her tell us a little bit more about her. But when I thought about these scriptures, I thought about, okay, what scriptures can we use to describe who she is, because she's going to talk about those two topics, but she is so much more than that. And so these two scriptures I would like to read are Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we or she should walk in them. And then Philippians 1:6. And I am sure of this, that he who begun a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. And so when you hear Karen speak and about these topics and just kind of understand a little bit more who she is, you will agree with me that these scriptures really, really represent who she is. So Karen, thank you. Karen is on vacation. She got out of bed today to come hang out with us, and so I don't take that lightly. Bless your heart for that. I appreciate that.
Definitely.
And we are, like we always talk about, here to educate and edify and making sure that we have as much information about as many things as we possibly can. So Karen, I don't know, Sherelle, you want to say something before we introduce
go right
Karen?
ahead.
Okay. Karen, introduce yourself to our listening audience, please.
So I'm so happy to be here, happy to be with both of you, happy to be here in front of the Listen Vision Live audience, and I'm proud of you because anytime you step out on faith to do something, the ripple effects are absolutely amazing. So I look forward to watching your growth as this show progresses.
Thank you.
So I'm Karen Maria Alston. I live in Washington, D.C. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a speaker. I marvel at the life I have been blessed to walk and from where I started. So you can Google me. You can go on any of my social media. It's either Advertising Diva, or if you follow my hashtag Being Karen Alston, you'll see more about who I am. I am very blessed to live the life that I lead because I'm full of growth and knowledge.
Yes.
And that is something that no one can take away from you. So
Yes.
I love doing what I do. I love pouring into women and helping women live their best life. I'm also adamantly supportive of us having wealth and
Yes.
creating generational wealth and knowing the difference between rich and wealthy.
Yes.
And how you
Yes.
move forward and navigate the opportunities, the market, and being able to read what's happening so that you and your family can benefit from it.
Absolutely. And let me just tell you this. Our guests, they always come on the show, and they're a little modest, right? And they don't really tell you who they are. So as my sister always says, I always do my homework, Karen. So let me just tell you a little bit more about Karen. Karen is the CEO and founder of the Spectrum Circle and AM+G Marketing Communications. She's a former account manager at America Online and MBNA, former financial analyst at JP Morgan. She studied finance at Howard University, HU, right across the street.
Is that the real one? Is that the real HU?
That's the real.
Yes.
She studied
We'll have
brand.
that conversation.
That's right. She studied brand management at Harvard University, Graduate School of Design, and attended their Business School of Executive Education.
Yes.
So,
Shout out to the other HU, HBS.
yes. And so, let me tell you why that's so important. God did that for you, right?
Yes, 100%.
And so we're not going to cower under what God has done for us in the opportunities that He's given us. And it's not bragging; it's just about what you have done and what you've accomplished, so that people can have an understanding of why would Sharon and Sherelle ask her to come on the show,
Oh,
right?
thank you.
So you have the background and you have the credentials, and so that's just so very important, And so that's just what I believe.
Thank you. And it's so important. And part of it is, and like I said, the life I lead and the life that I had planned for myself and what I thought was successful 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
The life I lead now is just unbelievable. But now I walk into rooms, I don't sell anything, I don't have to question, I don't have to say who I am just because I'm in the room.
That's right.
So,
And
and
Yes.
I've learned that
That's Black
Yes.
girl
you
magic
start
right
to
there.
walk in certain spaces and places. I have a potential speaking engagement coming up. I didn't do anything except walk in the room, and the person said, "I have to have you at this conference."
yes.
And it's something that I had been speaking and asking God in the universe to give to me, and it just came. And all I did was walk in the room. I didn't say who I am. I didn't say here's my bio, here's my resume. I didn't do anything. And that, what you said earlier about who you surround yourself with,
Right.
is key to success.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
And I would love to have you to come back on the show to talk about that, because that's a particular mindset,
It is.
right?
It is.
And and so even if you were fearful, you walked in.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so we'll talk about some exposure and knocking on some doors,
Oh, yeah.
and sometimes just showing up to places that you really don't want to show up to. And then when you do, the
You'd be
universe is open.
surprised how
Exactly.
much opportunity- And I tell people this all the time. We allow fear, our
Yes.
biases, our comfort zone to keep us stuck in places.
Mm-hmm.
I am pretty confident in every room I walk into.
Yes.
And now I walk into rooms where I'm the only woman or the only woman of color. I'm the only brown person in the room.
Yes.
And that used to intimidate and scare me. And now I'm just like, okay, God, if I'm in this room, there's a reason for
Right.
me to be in that room.
Exactly.
There's something that's coming back to me because I'm here. There's some connection, some person who's going to see me, something that's going to happen. And so I don't have any fear around that anymore,
Yes.
whereas I used to. So it is so important to get comfortable. But we, and especially people of color, we tend to self-select to only be in rooms where we feel comfortable.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to learn to say, okay, well, I can walk in this room. I can go to where I may not agree with anybody
In
on
that room.
anything. But one thing I have learned from successful people, and I have heard this over and over and over again from my mentors who are very, very successful, they don't have to agree. They don't even have to like you.
Right.
But if they know they can make money with
Yeah.
you,
Right.
or you're
Yes.
talented and this, they're going to go right behind
Yes.
and say, how do we make money? How do we do business together?
Right.
Exactly.
When
Right.
are we working together?
And what a
I have
powerful
learned that.
conversation.
Yes, I have
Powerful.
learned that.
but that's a whole different conversation.
It really
and
is.
it's really deep in terms of who we are
Yes.
as a people, and
Yes.
why is that? Why do we have to like you to do business with you?
Right.
No, we go to work and get a paycheck from people every day that we
Right.
don't
That
like.
we don't like.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Don't
And
get
so
me
why can't we
started.
just parlay it into our own gifts and talents?
We don't when we go to that paycheck job, we don't support each other to move up.
Right.
We get the
Right.
better jobs.
Yeah.
And we go home and complain about how much we hate the job, but don't do anything to change our own outlook and outcome at the job.
Yes.
Right.
So it is part of it is a deep conversation. Part of it is our issues from slavery and that conditioning of not wanting too
cultural
much.
conditioning.
Right, cultural conditioning and the conditioning of, oh, you got a good job, so just
Exactly.
don't, just
Right.
don't,
Don't
put your
rock the
head
boat.
down.
You
Don't
know,
rock the boat.
whatever they dish out, just
They don't
take it. It's
need
not
to
that
know,
bad.
right, just take it because it's better than slavery, right? So
Right.
we have passed that down from generation to generation to generation. Meanwhile, other people are teaching their kids how to build generational wealth,
Right.
and how to
Exactly.
be CEOs, and we're like, well, you got that good job.
Exactly.
Just hold on till
Yeah.
65. And, that's
And
what
in
we do.
this area, that good government
That
job,
good government
that
job.
is not necessarily a good government job right now today
Right.
as we speak,
We
right?
don't know what's going to
We
happen.
don't know what's gonna
You
happen,
have no
but,
idea.
yeah.
And I think that leads us into our conversation about, some leading indicators for
Indicators.
this economy. But I want to say this. And one of the things I think that we do as well, a lot of people, we don't listen to that intuition, that inner voice, and people, because we are, I guess, shaped to believe that, okay, you just got to be modest, you got to do this. And I'm thinking, no, I am the child of the Most High. And this right here ain't working for me.
Right,
So, because I
right.
know my comparable work.
Right.
Right? And so sometimes you do what you have to do, but you always have to have a plan to move forward in your life to get what you know that God has for you down the road. And that's knocking on some doors, that's showing up and being honest about what it is you want. And, and God will send the people to help you.
But
Well,
you just said something key, Sharon, knowing your worth,
My
right?
goodness.
Yes,
A lot of
that's
us don't
key.
know our
Not
worth.
at all.
I
You
do
know,
not.
a lot of
Not
us
at
don't
all.
know our worth, and we don't even know how to begin to define what our worth is.
That is interesting.
And so, that
interesting.
once you know your worth, that's 75% of the battle, right? And so we got to figure out how we, define our worth. How do we get there? How do we, walk in that confident area of knowing what our worth is?
And what you said too about surrounding yourself with positive people. So in that know your worth,
Yes.
if your tribe
Yes.
and your crew is, girl, you can't do that. Who
Right.
she thinks she is?
Right.
She thinks she cute. She can't date that guy. He only dates women like this. She can't do this. If that's who
Yes.
you're surrounding yourself with, you make the battle even harder.
Exactly.
So to get to a place of self-awareness and self-love,
Yes.
you have to surround. And the hardest thing that I had to do, not only look in the mirror and look at myself,
Oh.
but to look at that front row of people and say, who's really here for me, and who's only here because
Of what you could do for
what
them.
I can do for them, or they feel better about themselves because they hang around with me, or they get to say they're this, or the size 0 of the crew, and whatever it is. So
Exactly.
I had to look at that and make a decision of who are the people who were feeding into me and who are the people who were pulling energy out
Right.
and that were toxic. And I let go 99% of that.
And that's
It's a
what
few stragglers.
exactly. That's what my exactly.
And they probably family members. You couldn't get rid of them if you wanted to.
You got to see them at Thanksgiving.
Right.
But that's what my conference really is about, Women Thou Art Great, Women Sharpening Women, for us to get there and to have those real conversations, to build each other up, right?
Right.
To be there to
So
support each
powerful.
other, because, it just really is no
Invite
competition.
me to the conference.
Exactly.
Invite me so I can come.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just come and just talk to us and have some real authentic talk.
Right.
And so that's what's so very important. And so when you talk about, my comparable worth, I'm not just talking about in dollars, because
Right.
you can't even pay me enough
Right.
in terms of my
Right.
comparable
Right.
worth,
And
right?
your talent, right.
Exactly. And so, so knowing that, I have to get to a place where I know who I am emotionally, in relationships, financially, on jobs, when I walk in a room, and when I teach leadership principles, I always talk about this thing called the pie formula, and that's something I'm probably going to do with some mini sessions, because this pie formula is so important, and you just really talked about the exposure piece of the pie formula, and so it's just critical to who we are and what we do in being successful.
Our value is in a Chanel bag. our
Right.
values,
Oh,
what
my
we have
goodness.
in our head
Oh,
and
no
our
doubt,
heart.
no doubt.
So it's understanding that
Yes.
and not putting that energy onto another woman of, oh, well, she doesn't carry a Chanel.
Right.
You know, that's ridiculous. But we
And I don't
put
even want
that-
to tell
we
y'all
put
what
that
kind of
in-
bag I bought the other day, and I've been struggling because I'm like, I'm taking it back. Because I'm like, you know, I mean, seriously, you know,
It's
because
not-
I've
it's
never had one, and people are like, well, if you want, I'm like, no, I just can't. I don't know. I got to wrap my head around
There's
it.
nothing wrong with material things.
I
but
can't
with
wrap my head around
everything, it's having the money and savings that the material thing is just,
Yes,
it's not
yes.
it's not taking away from anything you
In
need
the
to be,
household
right.
and our goals for
It's-
the future.
It's, oh, I saved this is extra,
Right.
this is something I wasn't planning on, and I want that material
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
But it's not a right.
I mean, you just said something that piqued my interest. Extra, like there's such a thing.
yes.
Extra.
Yes.
It should be.
Is
There's a lot of
that
extra.
like when kids out the house and going on
It's
about
called asset accumulation.
Okay, so
Okay.
So
I don't
having-
necessarily consider that extra, right?
But no, I mean, if you have, and this is what we were talking about with the economy, and
Economy,
I'll get into
yes.
that in a second, but the different, like I said, these are cultural, so this isn't a negative on our parents or
it's not.
grandparents.
Right, no.
This is who they were and what they were taught,
And what they were
right?
working with.
and what they were working with. So now that we're at a place where you can have a great job, you can have a great career, you can sit in the government to 65. There's absolutely no excuse for you to sit in the government at 65 and retire with $250,000, right?
right.
So
I
now
agree.
it's, okay, how do I start to build assets? How do I save X amount in my 401k or thrift or whatever it is you have? How do I add to those assets so college isn't a drain on the family? It's
Exactly.
oh, well, we bought this property 30 years ago, or we bought this property, you know, and it doesn't have to be in Washington, which is an expensive place. You can buy in Richmond, you can buy in Charlotte, you can buy
Anywhere.
in Baltimore, right? And have a rental property that helps pay for college. So you're not touching the income of the family, you're touching assets to reinvest into, but it's thinking differently, and we're
Yes,
not
we-
taught
yes,
that.
yes.
We're taught you got the good job, go get the S class.
Right.
As
Priorities,
opposed
right?
to that same price as the S class, you can buy a house in most parts of the United States.
Right. You're absolutely right about
But
that.
we're not taught that. We're taught to pull up in the light and look good, which is fine. But it's
It
just
is fine,
it's
but
that asset.
It's a priority. It's about your
accumulation, right.
priorities.
It really is.
And then when you think about how quickly life goes by and planning for that whole retirement piece, you know, assets become very important. And but you know what's interesting, and I can't put my finger on it because I've come from a situation where we weren't taught finance.
No.
So a lot of my financial planning and things I did was later in life, right?
So you had to
And
catch
then
up.
and then I met some people that I was in a position to listen to, and they said, leave this money here, don't touch that, do this, do that. And so, you know, and I thank God I listened, because now here I am over 50,
Right.
looking to retire soon.
Right.
And at
you
least I
have
have,
the ability.
you know what
Right.
I'm saying? But this conversation is a conversation that we've had for a very long time. So what is it that we're missing?
I think part of it is, like you said, listening. And the other thing is talking about money in our community is taboo.
Yes.
And so people don't want to talk about it. You know, it's like what I have over here is all mine and I'm a hoard it. And you
Right.
don't need to know what I
Right.
make, what I'm doing with my
Right.
money. I got mine, you should get yours. And I think
Right.
we got to get past that initially, you know, and start to share and have these type of conversations so that people know that there are ways out here that you can build wealth.
There's so many ways. I mean, think about it. Y'all are on Facebook on a platform that somebody came up
Exactly.
with an idea because he wanted to
Exactly.
chase the hot girls in undergrad,
That's
right?
right.
Right.
So there's so many ways to make money. It's not just one way. You know, whether, you know, if somebody wants to be the Instagram model, you know, these YouTubers that are making millions
They are.
of dollars.
Yes.
You have DJs that make millions of dollars, millions of dollars DJing around the globe.
Yes.
So it's not just, oh, I have to be this
Right.
this Harvard MBA. I could just be the hot DJ that does all the parties and gets paid
Yeah.
$40,000-$50,000 a set, right?
Isn't that
So
something?
yeah,
That's something.
and then be able to take that money and say, okay, well, maybe we need to buy a Chick-fil-A franchise.
Exactly.
Or maybe we need, you know, just planning and thinking and having conversations. And what you said about us, how we hoard. We have this, no one can see me looking bad. So therefore, I can't share what's going on. And I look at my friends of other communities that invest and support each other. I always talk about this, about my friends in the Jewish community. Do you know how many times a dollar turns over in a Jewish community before it leaves? It's over 20 times.
Yeah, exactly.
So that means they go to the Jewish dry cleaner,
That's
the
right.
Jewish accountant, the Jewish lawyer, the Jewish investment advisor, the Jewish grocer. And
Before
it's
they go
not-
outside of their
before
community.
before that money goes
Yes.
outside the community. For us, and I'm very proud of this, I support a lot of black-owned
Yeah,
businesses.
I'm telling
I
you,
search
absolutely.
for
Search
that.
for them, yes.
And asking for help, being able to say to someone who has more money, hey, how do you help me get started? Or how do I learn from you? What are the tactics I need to employ? Like
Exactly.
you said, what your friend said to you, to get to this next level.
Right.
But because we want to look cute, and then we get to 62, 63 and realize,
Exactly.
oh, I got another 20 years on this mortgage.
Exactly.
How am I supposed
right.
to pay it off?
And then
right?
hearing people say, you know, I know I'm going to retire at 62, 65, and then I'm going to go and work at Walmart. I'm like, what? I mean, that's just,
That's a non-starter.
yeah, that's just, you know, that doesn't make sense. But let me say this. So what are some leading indicators for the economy? Some things that we really need to pay attention to because of my sister Sherelle, I've been trying to dabble a little bit in the stock market, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I know by
So
blow, you know.
definitely the stock market, but paying attention to what's happening. This is what I said. We get emotional about stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
we don't
we
like
do.
the president, so we get emotional. We don't listen to what he's doing,
Yeah.
right? Tariffs. What's going on with China?
Yes.
What's going on with all these policies? People are starting to speak it. We are headed into a recession.
We are.
Right?
They've been saying it.
So is it going to be as bad as 2008? We don't know yet, but it's going to be bad, right? It might be a 90s recession. It may not be as bad as 2008 was. But what you're going to watch are the wealthy people. They're going to be prepared when the recession hits. And a whole bunch of people are going to be reacting when the recession hits.
So what do you mean by that? The wealthy will be prepared. What does
They're
that
going to
mean?
have cash on the sidelines.
Cash,
So
okay.
first thing you're gonna, and this is free advice.
Yeah.
The first thing you need to do, all of you with 401ks out there this year, start to slowly move your cash into bonds. Such that equity that you've got that's in the stock market that you've made money, and kudos to Trump for taking it up to where it went, right? So start moving it into bonds so that you're not gonna lose half your portfolio when the market tanks, and then get some cash. So instead of buying bags and stuff, start putting some cash aside. So if the market tanks and it hits Richmond really badly, or it hits some town really badly, and all of a sudden houses are $1,000, you can say, okay, come on, family, let's go buy 5 houses at
We have cash
$1,000 each, right?
Yeah, we have the cash
And we
to
can
do
fix
it.
them up, and even if we only make 20 or 25,000, that's 24,000 more than you
Had.
made, right? Or looking at the market, following these marijuana laws.
Yeah.
We get a little So the handwriting is on the wall.
It is on the
Right.
wall.
They're going to probably nationalize marijuana in the next 5 years.
They are.
Right? So there are all these companies out there that are on the market that are preparing themselves for things. And so be able to say, and marijuana stocks are cheap. Some
They
of them
are.
are pennies,
Like
some of them
pennies.
are dollars.
They are.
So you can say, well, I'm going to take $1,000
Yep.
risk, right?
Yeah.
And put it in a marijuana stock. If that stock goes from 50 cents to this day, I remember when I came out of school and the other thing I pay attention to, a lot of people do multi-level marketing. So the other thing I always do is I pay attention to what's the hot multi-level marketing product and is it on the stock market?
And what does that mean?
So multi-level marketing, that's the 5 links, the prepaids, all the stuff
Oh.
that people are out here doing that are multi-level marketing. I'll never forget, it was 1994. Prepaid legal services was 50 cents a share. And people were selling it as their little side business. And I remember looking at that going, wow, that's a really good price. 50 cents. I could pick up 500 shares and it would cost me nothing. And to this day, I kick myself I didn't do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I bought XM Satellite Radio at 29 cents a share when the market tanked. I bought Citibank at $1.02 a share when the market tanked. So what you're going to see is whenever the recession hits and all the analysts get on TV and say, oh my God, the world is ending, you're going to see a whole bunch of people with cash
Going to buy.
going to buy. And that's where you have to be prepared for. And it's coming. We're heading into a recession. There's no question about it.
Exactly. And you're right about we just can't be emotional. And that's what the planning piece is all about, and educating ourselves as much as possible. And this is just my feeling. I feel like many of us, we're just walking around like there's nothing we can do. No. Right? We don't understand, but there is something that we can do to try to take care of our households and take care of ourselves. And, and a lot of it is very, very confusing. Right.
But it shouldn't be.
Right, exactly. And but it is for a lot of people. People are like, I don't want to hear about the stocks. I don't want to hear about that. And so, but what is it that we are trying to understand on our own so that we can be in a better position?
And like I said, that comes from our conditioning from slavery, because if you're a slave, you have nothing, you're indentured. So it's like, well, if I lose everything, oh well, but it's that mindset that's conditioned into us. That you shouldn't want to lose a mindset. So if you want to retire, it's amazing how you speak things into existence. I've been saying I'm going to retire somewhere on the Georgia coast, somewhere between Charleston and down St. Simon's Island, somewhere down there. And the city of Savannah just started following me on social media. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. But, if the market tanks and you want to move to Southern Illinois, because this house in Southern Illinois is $25,000.
Exactly.
Right.
And you decide, okay, well, I'll have the money then, and I can buy a house for $25,000 I can live in for the rest of my life. But it's just being able to think that way and say, okay, I don't have to live in this big house at 90 and have a $2,500 mortgage. It doesn't make any sense.
But see, let's be clear. When we retire, if we retire,
right,
the house will be paid for.
Oh, yes.
And that's
But
just
the other thing too is, what you said is key. We got to start pre-thinking what we're going to do, not wait until we are at that retirement age and people at your job looking at you like, oh, you're not going to retire yet? And you're like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I'm not even prepared, right? We got to start pre-thinking, like I'm already researching where I want to move to when I do retire in 44 months into the day, right? And looking at, what the land costs right now, and how much it costs to build a house on that land and what the taxes are. And so I'm already looking at those things, and I know that I still got to work 3.5 years before I can retire. And so by the time those 3.5 years come and go, I may already have the land and the house and all of that.
Exactly.
And so we got to start pre-thinking and just not living in the moment. And as you say, buying those Chanel bags now, when you can take that, people say, well, I don't have any money to invest. You were giving several different examples up here of how you could take, $500, or you can take $250 or $100 or $50. You can start anywhere with investing. And if you don't start to do that and start to build over time, you will look up and you will be eligible to retire. But then you got to work another 20 years because you haven't done anything to prepare for retirement. And depending on where you live in the country, if you live in California, you live in New York, you live in Washington, D.C. area, those places are expensive.
It's too expensive.
Expensive. And so you have to ask yourself, what type of lifestyle do I want to have in retirement? Do I want, when you get a little older, I don't know about y'all, but I got hip problems now. So I already know at 75, 80 years old, I can't be walking up all of those stairs in my house, right?
Yeah,
and so, we got to start thinking about those things and start talking about them. And if you surrounded by people who don't want to have the conversation, get you a new circle.
Yes, exactly. And I know my husband, and it's about he says it's not even about her. It's about her children's children. And so he's always sending her something every day. He sent something yesterday about when you turn 50, that's why you need to have a career. Because if you out of a job at 50, trust me, how
age
hard
discrimination
it is real. Exactly.
So
and that you more often than not, you've been pushed out of that job. So I know we're just talking, but we would love for you all to join the conversation, 833-202 8255. And so, you talked about some leading indicators. You talked about the tariffs. You talked about
Pay attention.
Moving some of your cash that you may have in your
out of equities into bonds.
Bonds
and treasury notes.
And looking at some multi-level marketing things.
Well, looking at what's hot, what everybody else is selling, that's how you profit off of everyone else selling something. You start to ask, is it on the stock market yet?
Right.
So similar to buying McDonald's or buying Chipotle stock. If you see everybody at Chipotle,
Yeah.
obviously,
Your Chick-fil-A.
maybe I should, or Chick-fil-A, right?
Yes.
Maybe I should buy and I brought up marijuana because
Yes.
it's obviously people are making money off of it.
They sure are.
And also check your vices. If you spending $250
Yes.
at MGM and $250 on I see people spend $250 on lottery tickets every week.
my goodness.
Do you know how much money that is that you could be investing in
Right.
something else? So stop and check and say, well, I gotta get
Check our vices.
all these vices done. No, you don't. Where can you put that money that it grows and helps you? My dad is such a miser and lives such an amazing life on his salary and his retirement. He did 38 years in the Postal Service and lives well.
Yes.
Bought a house in West Philadelphia for $80,000. He just knew he doesn't own a car. He just knew how to live his life well and how to maximize his income. He's like, I don't have to impress anybody. I
Right.
just need a house. It's just him in a house by himself. So he actually complains his house is too big.
Exactly.
But it's just thinking about what you want. And I plan to be fierce, fabulous, and inappropriate at 90.
My hip gonna be bad, but I'm still gonna be fierce and fabulous now.
Right.
I ain't giving that up.
And Karen said inappropriate.
Inappropriate.
I can go with that.
They're gonna be like, she wearing them heels at 90.
Exactly.
That's right. I said,
Exactly.
the queen ain't gonna have nothing on me.
Right.
Right.
But you talked about vices, so and that's another show. Because
Right,
we
yes.
all have
We'll come back
vices,
and talk
and
about that,
I've had to check my vices over the years. But you have to get to the root of your vices.
Right. And that's the therapy.
You got to get to the root to it. That's that
so
mindset.
We'll table that. We'll table
yeah,
that,
and
'cause
mind
that's
your
the
mind, mastering your mindset. I'm just
Yep.
telling you what I'm talking about, and it's a
It's
work.
our
It's an
security
internal,
blankets.
no
Yeah,
doubt. It's an
our security
internal
blankets.
work, and so that was just awesome. Was
That's
there
a
anything
master
else?
class.
It is a master class. Well, let's do one
Let's do
because that's a
one. Yeah,
master
that's
class.
it is a master
Because that's the root of it, and when you can get to the root of it. And I know my sister and I have talked about this on the show, and I think you all mentioned this. People always, it's my business. I just have a problem with that, with a lot of things.
Because your business affects everybody else.
Yeah,
Right.
and if you're keeping everything to yourself, how do you learn something else?
You don't.
Right? And in most of the stuff that we're doing not doing it right.
But all
Right.
that comes from a place of fear.
It
So
does.
all
And-
comes
yeah,
from a place
exactly.
of fear
Embarrassment,
and
whatever.
embarrassment and fear. And so it's just us putting more love in the world so that
Yes.
people feel safe
Yes.
to reveal those fears.
Yes.
Because they're so afraid and they don't feel comfortable. They got to hide and drink or do this or do that because they can't handle the fear.
And what's
But anyway,
the root? And what's the root?
We were going to talk about Facebook.
No, we are going to talk about Facebook, but before we do that, I have to mention a couple things before I forget, because that's just where I am in life. As you all very well know, Sherelle and I will be celebrating 1 year having the show on January 7th, 2019. So we're just going to try to make it spectacular because we could not have done this without our listening audience and people, on social media, Listen Vision Live. And we just came to this on a humbug, right?
Right.
We wanted to do something together. So we'll talk about that later and just really, really get some feedback. And
That's next
really-
week.
It is next week. And so we got a plan for next week
Yes,
to
we
get
have
it
to plan.
straight. And the other thing is, do not forget about the 4th annual Woman Thou Art Great Women Sharpening Women Conference on March the 23rd, 2019. Those of you that have been there, you already know. And those of you that haven't been there, you need to come and make it your business to know. And this week, I intentionally featured Sherelle because Sherelle will be doing triple duty. She's going to be my little sister. She is one of the speakers this year, and she still is the MC. And so Sherelle is definitely unapologetically great, and you just don't want to miss it. So go on Eventbrite and get your tickets. And I wanted to give Karen an opportunity to talk about her summit. Yeah, I think you have
Spectrum Circle Award.
Yes, Spectrum Circle Award.
So we are having our year 4.
Yes, isn't that fun?
4th annual Spectrum Circle Awards on March the 15th.
Yeah.
At the Fairmont Hotel over in the West End in Georgetown. This year we're honoring 6 women. So matter of fact, the last few nominations have come in the past couple of days. I am blown away how this luncheon has grown. And at the luncheon we celebrate innovative women in business, technology, media, nonprofit, the arts, and we celebrate a millennial under 30 because I think
Yes.
it's so important that we feed into our young people.
Yes.
And so this luncheon has grown from an idea and about 60 people to now this year the venue is 160 and I'm going to sell it out.
That's
it's going
right.
to be at 160 amazing women.
Yes.
What has been so remarkable and what I'm so excited about, and I hope you come buy tickets, is that it's a cross-section of Washington. There's a lot of diversity of who the women are that are in the room, and you can meet almost anyone in the room. Some women are mentors, some are friends, some I've never met, don't know, and it's just pretty amazing to me that the brand, I've built something that is bigger than me, and so I'm really thankful for that, so please come.
And that's what it's really all about. And so we're not going to take a commercial break because that was our commercial break.
Right.
So we want to make sure, and we have to support each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We just have to do it, and so here we are. So what I really asked Karen to come on the show and talk about, because she puts out these amazing posts, and it was something about a post that you put out that just clicked in me, from being a businesswoman to having personal pages. And I have two very dear friends that will not get on social media for lots of reasons. And so I asked Karen to really come and talk to us about the ramifications of what's happening. And, you know, we get all these messages and we're just inundated with information about social media, particularly Facebook. And so I wanted you to come and just really give us some insight on when social media is regulated, some things that we really need to be thinking about.
So, you know, it's going to be interesting in the next couple of years. And like I said, because we get emotional, we get angry about the president, whatever, we can't listen to what's happening. So due to the Russia investigation and what happened with Cambridge Analytica, and I don't even know if people understand what that is and have followed that story. But basically what Cambridge Analytica did was just data mine. And the number one source for data, there's two sources, Google and Facebook. So there's literally 2.7 billion people across the planet on Facebook, right?
Wow.
And you see it, we all see it every day. What do people do on Facebook? They post their
pictures.
lives,
Their
right?
lives.
And the younger kids post it on Instagram. Well, who owns Instagram? Facebook. There's so much discrimination. There's so much stuff happening, especially in these groups. Right?
Okay.
So, for instance, and I'll stick with the marijuana topic.
Okay.
There's groups on Facebook for people who smoke who want to live in houses where it's okay for them to smoke, right? Which is great, except it's housing discrimination, right? So if I said, well, I only want white women to rent from me, and I create a Facebook group called I Only Rent to White Women.
Oh, wow.
And all these people join and sign up and say, okay, this is great. I found my apartment in the group. That's great, except it's discrimination. And so nobody is regulating that. So then on top of that, Facebook, people don't understand how Facebook makes its money. Facebook makes its money off of advertising and partnerships.
Yes.
And so where they're going to get in trouble and where the change is coming is it's not from the ads that you see when you're scrolling on your page. That's easy and it's pretty trackable. It's the data they give to someone. They don't sell it, they give it as a sponsorship. So they say, okay, Netflix, I'm going to give you all these accounts in the United States. And they gave all those accounts to Netflix to look at, to learn who you are. And if you understand Netflix, the number 2 employee in Netflix was an artificial intelligence person, because Netflix thinks about what you want to watch, right? So they do that in order to psychograph who you are. So what's coming and what's happening, it's starting in Europe, it's coming to the United States, is Facebook has become too big.
Right.
It's a news company. It's a media company. It's a network. And so if you think about Ma Bell in the 80s, what the government did is it pulled it apart.
Yes, they did.
So what's probably going to happen, especially as our Congress gets a little younger, is you're going to start to see people say, okay, Facebook, you're great, but let's make this the advertising platform where people have to do this, sign up, follow certain rules and regulations. Let's make this a news media platform that has to follow these regulations that news companies and media companies have to follow. And then this will be the public platform and what you can sell data-wise. Facebook sold our chats they gave that away to companies, to Spotify, to Netflix. So imagine all the chats and all the Facebook
All of
messages
it.
you've done.
Yes.
And what came out in Cambridge Analytica was that a lot of the apps that were using Facebooks had the ability to see your whole phone, all your text messages, all your photos, including the ones you had deleted. And so people weren't paying attention to this. Our Congress wasn't paying, nobody was paying attention. And now all this has come out due to the Russia investigation. So look for our Facebook to hire a whole bunch, there's going to be a whole bunch of jobs in D.C.
Yes.
People want to work for Facebook.
Yes.
And look for our Congress to begin to pull this big
Pull it apart.
2.7 billion person entity apart. And for a lot of people who use Facebook to
Yes.
monetize what they do, they haven't thought through. Like you said, you just walking around and one day, oh, I can't do that anymore.
Right.
Or this now costs a fee to do it.
That's
or
right.
I have to think about the fee to go live or the fee to do this. Because technically this is broadcast, right?
Right.
Broadcast.
So the government's going to say, all right, well, how do we regulate this so that we know what people are saying? Because if we were doing hate speech right now, there's nobody stopping unless someone reported it. And then even if it got reported,
It's already out there.
it's already
Right.
out there,
It's-
right?
yeah.
So
Yes.
it has to be, and even Mark Zuckerberg said it in his testimony. He said, well, maybe we do need to be regulated. So get ready for that and start thinking about. So when I talk about monetization, and we go back to a lot of people on social media want to be popular, very few people know how to monetize.
Right.
So how you start to think through, well, how am I monetizing what I'm doing?
Exactly.
And how do I control my list and not Facebook control my list? So there are tools and apps out there where you can pull your email addresses, pull your phone numbers, back up all your posts, back up all your photos so that you have that. So if Facebook changes or decides we only want you to, in truth, Facebook only wants you to have 250 friends.
That's what I was going to ask you.
The algorithm works best if you only have 250 friends. Well, a lot of people don't have that. Some do, some don't. So
Right.
they may start to make changes. They're already making changes to get you off of it more. You notice how when they change the algorithm, you're like, oh, they changed the algorithm again. Start to see them push back so that it doesn't work well when you have more than 250 friends. So these are the things that a lot of small business owners and people they're not even prepared for.
No. And let
Because
me
we don't
ask,
have a yellow pages anymore. That
that's
doesn't
right.
exist.
No, it doesn't. But let me ask you this. So when that message was coming out, it was a standard message. I've been wondering what happened to all my Facebook friends. Is that what
That's part of it.
And so somebody, said to me, well, that's not real because they saw it on Google that it wasn't real. And I was thinking, I think that is real.
Well, I think a lot of it too is the bots. So
Yeah.
New York Magazine just put an article out on Friday about the percent of the internet that's fake. So
Right.
I know you saw, I got a whole bunch of fake friend requests.
Yes,
For
exactly.
the past few months,
Yes.
that it's just fake. You have nobody in common.
Right, none of
you
that.
get like 50 or 100. So those are bots that are out there all over the globe and what people are doing is they're fishing for your information.
Right.
They're fishing for your friend list. They're fishing for who likes your comments. They're fishing. So this huge social experiment that Facebook is, what we give to them for free,
For free.
that they make money off of, is our data.
Yeah.
Well,
What
what's
we eat, what we do, who we're
All
mad
of it.
with, what our husband did,
Everything.
he didn't come back till
Yes.
late, I'm mad at him, whatever it is. We see way too much stuff
We
that
do.
we're not
We see
supposed
a lot.
to see.
Oh, absolutely. The fake friends requests. It's amazing to me how many people still accepting them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they
know?
just want friends. That dopamine high of I got likes or I got friends. And that's part of this was psychographic to give you. We pick up our phones 100 times a day. That's a
Right.
dopamine. Oh, I got a friend. I got more. Oh, now
Yes.
I have 300 friends.
Right.
Well, the way I manage my social media is I'm really on Twitter or Instagram because I can't handle all of that. So I am on Facebook. I'm only accepting a friend request from you once, right? If you lose your password, can't get back in, got to set up a new page, we done, right? I can't do all of that. If I don't know you,
Right.
we can't be friends on Facebook because I'm not just trying to have everybody, and I'm very careful about, for me, I only usually have like 1 or 3 posts on Facebook. It's either a picture, a party over here, ain't nothing over there, and yeah, that's probably about and something about my son because he's funny, but and nothing personal about him, and so I don't know why, when people send these friend requests, people are still accepting them. And then the messages and Messenger.
Oh my goodness.
Not to mention the catfishing.
Yes.
Anybody with a phone can save your images and put them anywhere on the internet across the planet. So whether it's a dating site in Turkey or Plenty of Fish in DC, anybody can save these photos, and we're not. We view it as our personal diary, and it's not. It's
Right.
like, you don't own anything.
Right.
Facebook owns everything, and if Facebook decides to take your account from you,
There ain't nothing you can do about it.
and they own Instagram. So a lot of young kids say, "Well, I'm on Instagram." I'm like, "Well, who owns Instagram?" And
Right.
pay attention. The founders of Instagram just quit.
I heard that.
And
yes,
they were
I was going to ask you about
upset,
that.
but they're under non-disclosure, so they can't reveal.
Yeah.
So I knew as soon as they quit, Facebook is going to make changes to the Instagram algorithm that they probably disagreed with, or whatever the changes were. That Facebook is in business to make money,
Right.
Exactly.
right? They're not in business to make your experience
No.
great. They're in
Right.
business to make money.
Right.
So whatever they're going to do to Instagram and whatever they, I mean, I spend less and less time on Facebook because I don't want to see a post from last Wednesday. And it is, or somebody's, no, I mean, the algorithm has become so bad that it's not enjoyable. The only aspect of Facebook that is enjoyable for me are my groups. Because in the groups is where I gain information, I'm learning, I can,
And these are
I
private
can see
groups.
all the private groups where I can see opportunities.
Right.
I'm in probably 100 different groups. And so when I log on to Facebook, I'm in different groups. There's groups for speakers, there's groups for conferences I go to, there's groups for organizations that I'm in where people say, oh, here's these jobs, or here's this, or here's these speaking engagements, or hey, I can't speak here, can you speak? Or
Right.
here's this PR or media group where they're like, oh, we're looking for people to be experts on this, or can you come speak on this? That's what I go to Facebook for. My timeline.
Yes. And there's so much for me on Facebook that I just can't keep up with it all.
Oh, it's too much.
Because, if you're not on there, you go a day or two without going on Facebook, it's like you just miss so much stuff, right? And people are like, well, did you see this? I'm like, no, I didn't, because it's just overwhelming to keep up with.
But I let go of that because if I put time and energy into looking in that, that's time and
Exactly.
energy away from investing in me.
Yeah.
It's almost it's become the new TV.
Right.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
it's the
I
new
like that.
Main Street.
Yes.
It's the new town square.
Yes.
So you can sit and find out who's mad at who's mad at somebody, trying to figure out, I wonder who she's mad at, or who's breaking up, who's in love, who's this, and you just put all that time and energy into you're being a voyeur into somebody else's life instead of thinking about, well, how am I investing in my own?
But see, as a business owner, and just being new to business, right, relatively young in business and not understanding, I'm thinking, we have got to be on social media, but not necessarily understanding how to control it, because otherwise, how do you even get your message out? And so that was just my limited thinking.
No, I am on social media. All of my posts are controlled media. I'm not sharing anything too personal.
Right.
Everything is a controlled media, a message I want to get out for a specific reason. Part of it is building the brand, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
I do that. And then, of course, if I'm speaking somewhere, if I'm on TV, I want you to tune in. I want you to pay attention. If I'm hosting an event, I want you to come.
Right.
That's controlled post. It's the investing in myself, like I said, of, oh, well, is there an opportunity I'm missing out on? Is there some document or something that someone said, oh, this is a great tool that I use for X, Y, and Z? So I find myself a lot, like I said, in groups. That is the most valuable thing of Facebook. WhatsApp allows me, which Facebook also owns,
right. I just
allows
found
me
that out
to talk
today.
to my friends
Yes.
around the globe. So
Right.
my friends that are in Asia or Africa or in Europe, I can connect with them at any time, and it's free. It doesn't cost me anything to connect with them, and it has opened my eyes to what's happening in Singapore, or what's happening in Europe, or what's happening in Africa. So it's been a great tool for me to communicate with people, and I love WhatsApp. But it's just paying attention. Like I said, all these indicators, all this stuff, it's paying attention.
Yeah, paying attention and understanding what you're looking at
Right.
and what you're seeing, and how does it impact you, your life from a business perspective as well as from a personal perspective. And so those are the types of things that we really just have to begin to educate ourselves on. But again, it's overwhelming for so many people because people are like,
But all
what's
that-
real, what's not real,
And I tell people, half the things you go on YouTube, somebody's done a video.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness,
How
yes.
to do this.
They
You wanna learn how
have.
to change a toilet? Go on YouTube.
That's
and
exactly
watch
right.
it. And so someone has done a video. I'm watching this young guy on cryptocurrency. He's got
Yes.
a huge following on YouTube. I subscribe to his channel. That's where I'm learning about Bitcoin, learning about all these different cryptocurrencies. You can watch someone share what's going, or put in a group and say, who should I be following on YouTube to help explain this?
right.
And also, I want to talk about live and Twitter.
Yes.
You said you're a Twitter person. So,
No. I have a Twitter account. I'm rarely on Twitter.
Okay. So I'm on Twitter all
I
the
am
time.
too.
But you notice what Facebook realized when they put live out is that people would watch and tune in. So they created their own Facebook
Yes.
Watch, right?
Yes.
So getting a deal so that your channel can be a part of Facebook Watch.
Right.
Thinking of
Like
Twitter
Red Table
has
Talk.
Twitter moments, right?
yes.
So
Yes.
being able to say to Twitter, oh, I put this up, I want it to go live. So I have friends who have platforms and they post it live to Twitter. If you follow Roland Martin, Roland goes
Yes,
straight
he
to
does.
Twitter
He
and
does.
Facebook. So being able to and do those lives so that you're getting different people watching.
Right.
So the people who follow me on Twitter are very different from people who follow me on Facebook, and extremely different from people who follow me on Instagram. I have people
Instagram.
from all over the world that follow me. So Facebook is mostly DC area people, but on Twitter it's a lot of reporters, a lot of publications, a lot of people who are in media, and on Instagram it's just people from all over the globe that follow me. And it's been huge for me to have different strategies for each platform.
And then understanding which one works for you and the purpose of it. And I've just gotten more into Twitter over the last year and a half because I'm understanding it better. And that is because I'm listening to a lot of Sirius XM radio and just kind of understanding it. And so those are, some important information and maybe, our listening audience was already aware of what Miss Karen just talked about, but some of it I wasn't
I
familiar
was not.
with. Exactly.
I'm just
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
have a good time on Facebook.
Yes, and some people
And there's that too, right?
exactly. And some of our folks are saying this is definitely a teachable moment, and thank you for that advice because that's what we're here to do. We're here to share information to help build our communities, and I'm just going to tell you that's just so important. And if you notice the themes across just about everybody that's been on our show, it's just been real talk. Right, it's been giving you some nuggets, and we're hoping that our listening audience is walking away with something that they're applying, right? Applying to their lives, because I know that I learn something every time we have a guest on here,
Oh, for sure.
and I use it to apply it to my life.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come on.
Yes.
And I wanted to make a point about Twitter. I was on the Today Show. First of all, I started here at Listen Vision
That's right, I was
Live
gonna
my
tell you, talk
first
about that,
time.
yeah.
So shout out to Renee Allen for asking me to come on her show 3 years ago. But because of Twitter, a year ago, I got on the Today Show.
Right, remember that.
I sent a tweet, one tweet, and a producer called me the next morning. So, and then from that, I was able to go on Al Jazeera,
Yeah.
local Fox, and
Yes.
then Roland Martin show saw and said, "Can you come on and do all
Right.
these
I
Roland Martin
remember
shows?"
that, yeah.
So now, the power of social media and what I've said, having a strategy for each platform, it's unbelievable the reach you have. So to strategically think about, is my demographics to one of something?
Yeah, exactly.
And how
Exactly.
do I mix demographics so that I have people of all backgrounds, all incomes,
Yes.
all areas of society that follow me, so that I can be open to multiple opportunities.
And that is just such a great way to end this segment, because one of the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of this year is to open myself up to listen to things that even if I don't agree, right?
Definitely.
Because if I continue to keep myself in that box, I can't grow.
Not at all.
Right.
And at least you get multiple perspectives on things, because when we get in our box, we tend to think that what we believe is the only thing and the only right way to do something,
it's not.
and it is not. And I've seen, and some of the conversations are hard to hear.
Yes.
Some of the
Extremely,
things-
right.
Yeah,
It should be
but that's
uncomfortable.
about my
Right,
growth,
right,
And
right.
so I think that was just a great way to kind of end this segment?
I agree with that. I have a gentleman that I have political conversations with who is a Republican, white gentleman, graduated from Howard.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he and I, we go back and forth, and you know, he said to me the other day, "You're busy sending and not receiving."
See,
And so I was like, I love that saying, and I'm gonna steal it, but. You know, and I was like, that's a good point. Okay, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you say what you got to say. And even though, you know, we could agree on a lot of things, you know, it's just some of those things that we just don't necessarily agree on. And but you got to be able to have the conversations.
right, and without the emotions.
Right,
That's what I like.
right.
Because if you caught up in the emotions, that's what anything. You're not going to be able to really hear or receive
Right.
what you're supposed to be receiving at that moment.
Right.
Exactly.
And you hear the word Republican, you think Trump. You don't think that most African Americans were Republican until
Before,
1970. You know,
Right. They were early on.
So,
Okay.
well, thank you, Karen.
We're
for
getting the
coming in.
signal to wrap
Yes.
up. And so this was so amazing. Thank you, Karen. And I know that I pray that everything that you continue to do, that you're doing in the community is impacting people's lives and that you continue to be blessed, because I really appreciate that you came off your vacation to come
Yes,
to the show
we are-
today.
wouldn't miss
We are thankful.
Yeah, so thank you, Facebook family. We'll be back. Not Facebook family, but Listen Vision Live family.
All
We'll
over
be
the world.
back, yeah,
Yes.
exactly, next week with our anniversary show.
Yes.
Woo! So thank you all for
Bye.
tuning in. Have
It's
a
time to
blessed afternoon.
Go Bears.
Oh, goodness.
Woman, thou art great.
Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show.